Now we
Good
are.
one. Yeah, I see lots of opportunities to recommend CD in the pipeline editor. And the easiest way to do that would be just to include an alert. And we can think what we would put in that alert. I'm not exactly 100% sure what is possible, but I guess would be very nice to link to some kind of template that you'd be able to right away maybe use to get your continuous deployment set up. Um, but linking to the docs would be the super easy first step probably. And then to take it further, not in the first iteration, but once we actually do have some more capabilities in the pipeline editor, we're planning to make it much easier for you to kind of use the templates as building blocks for your pipeline. So we would have job templates as well, things like that. So it would be, once that is available, it would be quite easy for us to surface some templates or have some kind of prompt within the UI that not just tells the user, hey, you can also deploy with GitLab and here's a link to the docs, but we can point to where you can do that and point you to the next steps. So I think that would be kind of the ideal way, but that's a bit far off.
Yeah, I agree that just-in-time guidance, like in the pipeline authoring, would be great. But bringing it back to like where we are now, the question is, we already know. Okay, so let me put this into two different sentences. So one of them is we already know when someone has a CI job that doesn't deploy anywhere. We know how to to find that out. And then the question is do we now already, can we proactively already engage with the user at this point and say, here's docs, and point them to how you can accomplish CD. Maybe even point them to the template folder is also okay. But there are different situations where I wouldn't want to show this. One of them is, I just saw this message 1,000 times. I'm not interested in deploying and I don't want to see this message anymore. And another one is, I am purposely not deploying. This is a pipeline that is not supposed to deploy anywhere. So we kind of discussed that in the issue, and there's some comments from Shinya about that. So there are specific projects that we don't want to deploy in the first place. So I think that even if we do decide to make it really easy in the first iteration, show this message to everyone, regardless to whether they wanted to deploy or not, we need to make this dismissible and not annoy our users.
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, to add to Orit's point, I think I do see an opportunity in one of the work that is still to be worked on. I mean, so when it comes to CI, how we see the responsibilities of people with different roles is like developers. Yes, they are very much involved in creating and using and even overlooking at the performance of the pipelines when it comes to their own projects. But then we also see an opportunity to surface the performance information. I mean, in the form of actionable insights. And we are planning to do that on an overview page that we will introduce at the group level. And this is the page where we expect the like SREs and operations team to engage with. So those are the people who actually are concerned with deployments to begin with. And they would get to see some very critical, crucial information that might also trigger them to try new things for various projects. And that's why I feel that's going to be a very ideal page to show these notifications. I mean, we are still working on showing the dashboard for a particular project, like in a project when the pipelines are running, how to show the status of a running pipeline. But that I don't think, I feel that if we pop this up every time on that page, it might just be annoying because first of all, developers might not have a lot of control in that scenario. I know that in smaller setups and smaller companies, when the team is very light, developers might also be involved in taking care of the deployments, but that's not always the case. So we have to be critical of that, like who's engaging with that page, what are the roles and responsibilities of the people who are engaging with that page, and what is the intention that they're coming there with. So that's kind of captured in the jobs to be done, and that's what I was looking at. I just posted the link.
So if I may ask a question, even though it's kind of off topic about this page that you want to show the deployment statistics, let's just make sure that this doesn't overlap with another activity that we have with the DORA 4 metrics, because there we're showing deployment frequency, both on the project level, group level, and instance level. So it sounds very similar. And also there we were thinking that if like the deployment frequency is relatively low, we could hint to people, hey, you can do this and this in order to improve your deployment frequency, like connect it to auto rollback, which we just did, or things like that. So let's just make sure that those activities are in sync so that we don't do like totally different things with a lot of effort on different teams.
Sure. So, Arit, could you help me with like, is there going to be a dedicated page for that? Like,
Yes.
where are you surfacing that? Is there?
Yeah. So I'm going to send here in the chat the epic. It's a really large epic. And there's two different parallel designs, which Ian is supposed to decide which is going to be the winning one, because we already had like parallel designs with Dimitri and Hayana. So we need to make sure there's one. But this all sounds very similar. Let's just make sure that everyone is on the same page.
Yeah. So, I mean, ever since this whole concept was when it was starting to come into life, we did think of all of these epics which are currently being worked on. And I definitely, this was a plan that we'll have a sync meeting before we kick off. And as we flesh the first few designs for that, that hasn't happened yet because we are focusing on the status of running pipelines until now. But now we would actually start working on that. And that's a good reminder that we have to be in sync.
Okay, so going back to our original issue, which is the in-product guidance to let people know about CD, let's talk about what our options are for now. So I think, yes, if we have some kind of overall page that talks about deployments, doesn't matter at the moment what it looks like, that's a great idea. I think the pipeline editor is also a really, really great idea, especially if we have specific templates for jobs. And at the end of the day, the deployment is a job. We also have to think a little bit deeper about like how this connects to child parent pipeline, which may, have pipelines that do only the CI part, and then there's another pipeline that does the CD, but I don't want to go into that corner case right now. But I would like to see if there's like something that we can start with, that we think that we can start with like tomorrow. Don't worry, and it won't be tomorrow, but just like as a matter of speaking.
As we kind of dive into some of the things that we can do right now and what's next, one of the reasons I really wanted Kevin to join us is I was wondering, as you've kind of heard, hopefully a pretty good story of what we're kind of looking for and what we're doing, is there anything that has been done on the growth side that comes kind of close to this, or do you have any thoughts or maybe learnings of doing these kind of activities in the past that you could share with us?
Yeah, so actually it reminded me something that we tried. It was another growth team than mine, but it was about basically whenever a user was creating a merge request that has no pipeline, we were triggering an extra block in the merge request page to inform them. So it was not a banner and it was not a popover. So it was part of the UI. And I'm going to share the issue. It's a bit big though, but hopefully you'll get a sense of what that is. And basically this had good success. What happened is like from this place, you could click on like a link that was setting you to a template, like a CI template, to then start like creating a template after this. you have the flow within the issue. The weird thing is like I don't know if it's up to date, sadly. But anyway, I'll just drop it there. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions on this. But it kind of sounds like it's the same type of situation where you want to be contextually pinging people kind of and tell them, hey, you probably want to use this. So yeah, and then another thing is that very recently we merged some guidelines around initial like onboarding, like on user onboarding on different features and different pattern that we tried. So I'm going to link this here too. Maybe that can help. But basically, there's a hierarchy in different pattern that we can use. So from popover, UI modification, banner, and empty state, and their effectiveness versus intrusion. So a good example is like popover, the intrusion is high, but the effectiveness is high. But again, that's contextual. It depends. Like we had some cases where popover were working very well, and other where they were just dismissed right away. So I guess yeah, it really depends on what part of the flow, like your user flow, you're in. And I don't know, like hearing the story behind this, I would say maybe yeah, the banner sounds like the easiest to do right now, but trying to also embed this within the UI could be a good idea. So yeah, I don't know which form, because like on the top of my mind, it's hard to say like it should look like this or that. But yeah, I think one of these two might be able to help you for this first step. And then yeah, linking to the doc is probably the easiest for now, as it would help you assess if people are interested in it or not. Maybe. But maybe down the line, I think where you could really measure the impact that this change could have is maybe guiding a bit more on, yeah, setting up CD. So yeah, hopefully this answers some of your questions.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you so much, Kevin. I really appreciate the examples as well. It looks like, if I understood correctly from the examples, there's two kind of options we could look at. One would be the easier option, which is on that page when we notice there isn't a deployment, we add a banner at the top that's like, hey, we do CI, here's the docs, and it's its own moment. Would you say that if we get some level of success from that people start using it, that we should consider the following iteration where we actually have a real moment dedicated in the UI to doing this? Does that make sense? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it does. Like if you want to, yeah, really go for something quick right now, probably the banner is the best option. But again, like what we tend to see is that they don't perform that well versus something that would be like within the UI, so feels more in context. Because banner, like, you know, because of their placement, because of yeah, the fact that they kind of stamped on top of what exists is not always efficient. But again, it depends, because we have some banners that performs really well. For example, the gold trial banner, like right after you sign up, like to date, this is the main driver of trial within an app, which is quite crazy. So yeah, it really depends on the context, but yeah, I would say banner is probably the easiest step, and then maybe try UI modification so that you can balance both afterwards.
So it seems like, thank you, Kevin, I appreciate that. If we started with the banner, we kind of have a place for it now in the product. And of course, I went to go say where it is and now I can't think of it. But it sounds like there's two opportunities that are going to be coming that are really good for, like, you can click this button in the editor and it will actually like pull in a template or something like that. So maybe we could start with the banner in the place you already have. And then when these new areas of the UI, like the complex visual editor, open up, we can start doing more embedded things where if you click on it, there's a button that just allows you to start deployments and it adds that section. What do you think, Orit and Nadia and Vidika?
I wanted to ask Kevin a question regarding this experiment. So let's say we add this banner with the pointers to the docs. How would we determine that this experiment is successful? Like what would a successful banner look like? And are we like measuring the amount of people that reach the doc from this specific button?
Well, you want to monitor this, but ultimately I don't think this would be your successful criteria, because you can, land on the dock but not act afterwards, right? So probably one of the things that you could do is like people that got exposed to this, so then that would kind of be an experiment setup. So this is how growth would do it. Then I don't know how your team is going to do it, but if you want to do it that way, I would say it's probably seeing like the people that got exposed to this variant, how many of them are actually adding a CD template or a CD configuration to their pipeline.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think the downside of this, well, the docs is really great because it's quick, but people actually need to understand what the docs say in order to get started. So it kind of adds another layer.
Yeah. I mean, I also agree, like, the docs is also tailored for self-managed. Like, what about SaaS? I mean, there are a lot of stuff with the docs that are not quite right. But again, like in the situation where you want to go for a really quick first step, I think it's probably good. And if you could measure then the effectiveness on CD jobs created, I think that would be great. I know that we want to try to do something like this for CI templates, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, let's see how that works, because I know that we are also lacking a lot of instrumentation in the product. So I don't know what's possible and what's not today.
So I wonder, I don't know if this makes any sense, and I'm going to ask the team what you all think about this is, what if we kind of suggest this snippet to add to your YAML file that adds that deployment job that doesn't really deploy anywhere because you actually need to do some preliminary work, but at least it adds that step. So you can see that people are actually trying this out. What are the thoughts of the team?
I like this idea. I think it's good. We just need to, obviously it's not as ideal as just like use this piece of code and it's gonna work. And it's an obstacle that we're facing really a lot right now with pipeline authoring, because it's not easy to take that leap technically from like copy and paste this to actually let's generate your YAML for you. And now it's like a big roadblock for us to all of our dreams and goals with the pipeline editor and the visual builder and things like that. But our approach to this is, to just offer to copy and paste in the most efficient placement and timing. So it's better than nothing. Otherwise, you would have to go read the docs and go somehow find that snippet and still customize it. So at least we're reducing that work for you. And we could still probably link to the docs as well. So if you want to learn more about it, or but I like this idea.
Awesome. We are coming up on time, so I want to make sure we kind of have an actionable next step for us. I think it seems like we're gravitating towards our first option is going to be some sort of like banner that hopefully has something they could copy and just add themselves, but also links to the documentation. That's a lot in the little banner, but I think we can do it. The last question is really where do we stick it? Where is the best place? I know we've kind of identified that if a CI YAML file doesn't have the environment variable, so we can identify when there's a situation they need to engage with something, but when do we show them? That's not annoying. This is like the hardest question that I've been really struggling to answer. Do you have any thoughts?
So currently, our users added their pipeline configuration in many different ways. Actually, most use their editor of choice and don't even do it within GitLab, to be honest. But if you want to do it in GitLab, now you have two options right now to do it in the web ID and the single file editor, just clicking on edit. or there will be a third option soon, which is the pipeline editor. And I think we can ship the MVC of the pipeline editor in 13.8, but I'm actually not sure. Maybe it's going to be 13.9, but it's just going to be like a third editor. And yeah, I don't know, probably the usage is not going to be very high for the pipeline editor after the first iteration. So I don't know how useful that would be for us to put that notification there, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I think we can still surface that. I mean, if a user is going to edit a pipeline, I mean the YAML file for their CI/CD, I don't know if we can identify if they are like just there to edit or they're authoring for the first time. But if they're there to edit, that means they're looking for opportunities to optimize it and they're open for making changes. I think at that point, if we show this in a banner, it might work.
Yeah, it'd be good to.
Sorry, go ahead.
It'd be good to differentiate between a first-time use and optimization, but I think it's not super critical for an MVC. We could probably just kind of show the notification.
What do we think about the pipeline view? Like, I think the editors are great. They're good suggestions, and we can probably start that as a first iteration. What do we think about the pipelines, though? Like, you see the pipeline, and it ends, you know, at the end of the staging. Is that there? And we thought about, you know, adding it there, saying, hey, what about deployments, whatever.
Yeah, that could be an interesting area. Honestly, I'm not able to understand like what workflow would be involved with this, but because as far as I know, when users are looking at the performance of their pipeline, I mean, when they are seeing like if this stage has passed and what's going on, they're just looking if there's any bottleneck or something is going to get stuck, and they're there to solve that. Yeah, another one could be the pipeline list view page. I mean, where all the pipelines are listed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it could be a good option. Also, the jobs page could be a good option.
Jobs page is not visited very often, is what we figured out. So, I mean, we can put it there. There's no harm, but I'm just putting it out that it's not a very visited page.
Okay. Thank you all so much. This was exactly what I was hoping to get out of this sync. Seems like we have an action plan. We have a very small MVC to move forward with, as well as options. Thank you all very much. Special thanks to Kevin for coming in from the growth team. That gave us a lot of insight. So I really appreciate it. Next steps is I will probably put some sort of design come together that is a screen with a banner and all the information we talked about. Ping everyone in the issue because we all love async. And then we'll go from there in terms of, does this work? What do we think? And how do we measure it? That kind of stuff. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, I added a short summary of what we talked about in the issue itself.
Oh, perfect. Even more async. I love it. All right. Any last minute thoughts before we take off?
Thank you, everybody, for joining. It's really great. I love how everyone collaborates together. It's really amazing.
Yay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. Bye.